Hello and welcome to our third installment of the 2025 prediction show right here on ULTI.TV. I'm Stefan Rapazzo alongside Benji Reese and Amelia Durbin for this edition in the mixed division. My esteemed panel, how are we today? Amelia, what's happening?
Not too much. Living the dream. It's a bit cold out here in England, but other than that, surviving winter. It's nearly spring.
It's nearly spring. You got your windmill shirt on, ready for the season. Benjamin Reese and Katz undoubtedly to make a cameo at some stage over the program. Benj, how are we doing?
Good. We are one cat fewer than we were this time last week. Misty got adopted, which is wonderful.
Oh,
Yay!
yay.
Okay, I was like, oh no, not the other.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
reason for
anywhere near as glib about it.
Okay, good.
Slash
good,
as
good.
available, to be honest.
Yes,
No,
yes.
Misty got adopted. Very, very happy for her. And yeah, the cycle keeps on running. So probably by the end of the week we'll have another one in.
Nice, Bench. Love your cat stories and the revolving door of cat aid going on over there. We're going to talk about the mixed division in Europe, mostly based on EUCF, the EUF approved championship, the club championship of Europe. It is what defines the best of the best around these parts. We went through, and if you haven't seen it, go check the women's and open division, which are to be published by the time you're watching this already. So check those ones out. But moving into the mixed division, we're going to break down kind of how it panned out last year at the top of the charts, and maybe the way we see it panning out differently this time. So, to give you a recap, last year, the champions, Deep Space, UK based two-time champs, that's back to back. They took down Tief, the German outfit from Munich, who were strong all season, looked the goods. I think there was a lot of belief that they could do it. They could pull it off throughout the season and throughout the tournament. They stayed strong, but finished with a silver. And the bronze medalists, Tartu Turbulence, the Estonians from Tartu, just outside of Tallinn. And they knocked off the French outfit Seski, who were the other semifinalists. Are we going to get an absolute repeat is the question. Let's start with Amelia Durbin.
Hi. Well, I have an affiliation with Deep Space. They're obviously a team from the UK. I'm from the UK. Some of my friends are on that team. And so I'd like to say that, yes, I think they can win it again. I think one thing that Deep Space do incredibly well is run their club like a business. I'm not involved at all, but just from the stories that they tell, the leadership, they take it incredibly seriously. They run it really, really professionally. And I think in the mixed division, they're probably ways ahead compared to where the rest of them are for the way that they run the ship. And I think that alone gives them a massive competitive advantage.
So you like to see Deep Space back on top, three-peat the prediction. As far as the rest of the podium goes, Derbs, are you going to stretch out on a limb, or is the notion of Deep Space three-peating the same notion of the podium repeating?
Well, I think mixed is a kind of chaotic division. Looking at that list, we know that there are people that finished quite low down. Looking at another British team, the Lemming sides, that won that elite invite, then coming up and finishing 13th at Euros, which everyone was very, very shocked by. Maybe the weather was a massive contributing factor to that. I couldn't really call it. I wouldn't be surprised to see Reading further up. If we remember in 2022, they were in the final against Klutz with kind of 1 or 2 points in it. They've certainly got a lot of potential to be pushing up further. I don't think I could call it. I just don't think we'll see the likes of Glasgow or Pelt or Disconnection kind of coming anywhere near the top. But there are probably 7 that could come second or could come 7th.
Okay, happy to hear to get things started. Benji, let's have your take on it.
It's interesting because even when Hrut, who were the dominant force in the mixed division, were at their pomp, I don't think they managed a three-peat at all. Obviously, at the very end of their cycle as a mixed team, Deep Space knocked them off, and before that, Salisbury's got in the way a couple of times, and it is so hard to win consistently at this level. I mean, the list of repeat EUCF champions is very small in all three divisions, really, to be honest. And in the mixed division, it's pretty much just Groot who have been able to do it consecutively until Deep Space, of course, managed it last year. Part of that, of course, was because for a long time, mixed only came at EUCF every 4 years. But it's so tough to keep doing that. You mentioned that Deep Space they run it in a quite professional fashion. They're not afraid to make tough decisions and tough cuts with people who have kind of been there for a while and been, big parts of what they do. If it doesn't feel like a fit anymore, for whatever reason, other players come in who want to do that role. They do make tough decisions, and the squad does have not lots of turnover, but they do churn through the roster a little bit, which on the one hand is good. It keeps people, comfortable, and it means that they have added some phenomenal players over the past couple of seasons. Full-fledged internationals joining the club is never a bad thing. I just think it's so tough to do it again. Tief were unbeaten the entire season up until the EUCF final, at least in European play. It was a little bit different. I know they got knocked out in the quarterfinals of German nationals, but for the German national championships, it doesn't necessarily work the same way as EUCF teams don't have the same rosters or whatever. So you can maybe take that result with a little bit of a pinch of salt. I was thinking coming to this that TC they might have a couple of players on that German World Games team, but then, obviously Deep Space won't because GB didn't make the World Games. Germany won it on tiebreaker because Germany finished maybe one position higher in the mixed division, and that was all that they needed to do. But I think TC they had a really good core. I think they just ran out of steam a little bit at the end. Now they've established themselves a bit more as a team. It wouldn't surprise me to see them, maybe make a couple of additions, take the load off some of the key players that gets them the ability to pop and come over the top and actually win the title this year. I think I could see that happening. It was a great run for Tartu Turbulence. Again, I think people look at the depth a little bit there that maybe might be lacking. You are looking at some of their key players to take over in games. How consistent, how replicable that is not necessarily something you can always rely on. Seskadistas, again, I think they may be a little bit disappointed with the fourth place finish last season. But again, they're a team that's likely to have a decent World Games contingent that would, probably dampen the EUCF performance a little bit. Last year they struggled to get Sasha Płat-Sokolski on the field through injuries and illness, which never nice to happen. But in a World Games cycle, players like him and Gaël Ancelan, they're, and others in their ranks potentially, could be in that squad that might attract some of the focus. And then you go down, Reading, I think, were disappointed with 6th. It wouldn't surprise me because we've seen how well they can perform at their best. They could challenge for medals again. Mosquitoes, I think, a little bit of a sleeper. They have improved over the last couple of years. I could certainly see them breaking into that top 4, and I would be very surprised to see Lemmings underperform again this year, as they did at UCF.
Wonderful recap, Benj. Love all the tidbits. And as for the predictability portion of this segment, who's it going to be, Benj?
I'll go, I think Tief for gold, Deep Space for silver, and Reading in bronze, maybe? I think the fact that some of the other key players will have, maybe diverted focus during the season, I think will probably work in Reading's favour. Despite 6th place, they were not, a 1 point here or there in the bracket, and they could well have come back with a medal.
And we all know, Benji, that was because of the seeding not being a proper 1 to 8 snake.
Yeah, I know there were some grumbles that if we've got this algorithm that ranks the teams, why are we then doing?
Why are we playing with it?
Why aren't we using it? Yeah, why are we doing the pool draw essentially.
And the
You know,
answer is for entertainment.
but then we should be doing the draft. We should be doing the pool draft. That's the
Yeah.
hot thing now, isn't it?
People, it's interactive. It's interactive. People get a little bit more pleasure out of it. There's a little bit more rivalry, a little bit more chalkboard or bulletin board material to want to take people on who draft to have your number. So, anyways, that's I touched on that last episode, and we'll touch on Hoagie's gripes once again in that one. I'll take my stance on this one. Deep space, I have over the years, the last 2 years. I mean, 2 years ago, I gave no love, and I heard all about it after they won that championship. Last year, I think I gave them a bit of love, but didn't pick them to win it again. And I think I can't see the three-peat. It's so hard. So they're just I'm never gonna be.
Oh, and none of us going to pick the reigning champions. That feels sort of
I did.
absurd.
Yeah.
No, you did. That's fair.
Yeah, Drubsy did. Like I loved their pickups. I mean, I've had chats with the likes of you both and others on opinions of strengths of players on these teams. Halkyard, I think, was one who like flew under the radar for me. Which when I go back and I look at his stats and I look at some film and I was like, okay, yeah, he was a great breakout player. I think very deserving of that award. I think Max Squires is a player that I kind of like, who kind of has been passed around and passed on the UK scene a bunch. So there's a little bit of division on how much he gives to a team. I quite like Max, but he's one of the people who, maybe takes a bit too much of a predominant role by other people's opinion. Could stand to take a little bit more of a back seat. And let the team work around him a bit more. He is a spark plug kind of player, though. He wants to get hot and stay hot. But the roster, Lonzy, ULTI.TV's on ULTI.TV's own Alana Archer. Love what she does out there. She's a big defensive body for deep space. Shuts down a lot of top cutters. Kate Gibson, another award winner on the defensive side. They are good. They are deep. It would be foolish to not pick them to win again, but I'll get to my predictions soon. But I've proven myself foolish before. Tief Taucha, you talk about the potential world gamers there. I think Torben is the one. Holzer is on, he'll be on the radar, but I can't see Holzer making a world games team. Germany's just got too much depth there. Linnea Siebert is the other one who would maybe be on that World Games radar. What I'm worried about is their top stat getter last year was Lorenzo Pavan, who was a late addition, who was kind of in like, I'm taking a year off. All right, I'll come and play for this shit hot mixed team late in the season who's got a chance. All
Classic.
right, I'll come and
Classic.
play. Left his team, the CUS Padova Rangers, who finished a respectable 10th in EUCF. I mean, didn't leave them because he wasn't signed up, but his home team was there and he went and jumped on the German side. I'll take a medal. Was 1 goal away. That was a great final. So those two have got to be in contention. Tartu, of course, Jakob Tam is the one. You talked about it, Benji. A short roster is relied upon to do a great part of the pulling for them. And you saw he was injured for 1 game against Glasgow, and they dropped that game. Or was it Padova? I got to go back. Or it could have been Savage. 3 of those were in the group, I believe. Anyways,
I think they dropped to Nulucht in the pool on Universe.
There we go. I got it all wrong.
And then they got hammered by Seskidistas. So I think he picked up something in the first game of that weekend, which was against Sky this Warszawa. Yeah. And then he rested it, I think, during the rest of the Friday games because they were pretty sure that they'd make the bracket. And then
they only just did. They did, but only just in the end.
Yeah, on a 3-way tie, I think, in the end. Yeah. And then, from there, it was like, okay, boots on, time to go, and he and Tara took over.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Christian Loritz, he's the aging legend. How much more can he keep putting in at the top end of like a relied upon distributor of a team like this? Good news, the breakout player of the year, or the runner-up, I believe.
Runner-up.
The runner-up was Marin Raba. She is one to watch continually. I was really loving watching her develop over the last 2 years. Last year, she seemed legit. She's there. She has arrived. Clara Leet, another. I think talk in Estonia is a lot of these young, hot players, Tam, Leet, Raba, would all like a chance to play for some, meddling teams in the open and women's division. There's a trend now of people like going out, try out for Grit. I know those two did try out for Grit women. I think they went to just see how it went because they have agreed to give Tartu one more year of mixed, and then you may see the departure of some of those young players to go get a run. I know Jakob Tam has talked a bit of Wall City in the past, but also to see how he goes in open. So,
and I mean, was it last? I can't remember this. Well, obviously it's not this year because we're in a new year, right?
Moon.
I can't remember whether it was 2024 or 2023 where he played and won Tom's tourney with Mooncatchers.
Yeah, I think it was 2023 because Bologna won Tom's last year. Yeah,
Sure.
Tognetti threw the game-winning goal, or caught the game-winning goal. Yes. Anyhow, I remember because we had a super team photo right after, and he came off jubilated after winning to take we are the currently existing members of super team picture. Tokai, super team. So Seski, I think you're right. They missed Sasha Potsokolski. He was dealing with some crap, but there's going to be a lot of players that are in and around selection for World Games. I don't know. Mosquitoes, impressed with. If they get Spalholz healthy, I love seeing what Dunsi has done over there after they were in Groot, learned how to win, learned from Ben Ort. I know Ben Ort has been down in Vienna, not Vienna, but wherever mosquitoes are near.
Klosterneuburg.
Thank you, Benji.
It's Vienna.
Yeah. So I quite like them to jump. Reading, I think, did maybe get hard done by, and I think they're still legit. After that, I think we got our drop off. Their tops, I think our three medalists will come from the top six from last year. That said, we have discussed how wild this division can be. We know Lemmings have the potential of putting a hot tournament together. They won Elite Invite, the best all-around tournament. There's always big change, and because of that, my predictions will put Reading Ultimate back in the number one position. Reading are going to win the EUCF in the mixed division.
Love
I'm
that.
into it.
They are going to beat Tief Tauche, and Deep Space is going to have to settle for the bronze. I'm not going to go into who they're going to beat because I'm already pulling things out of the old blinker here. But yeah, that's how I'm going to see it. So Reading, Tiefsee, and then Deep Space.
I have a question for you. So Reading and Deep Space this year played a lot. I think it got to like 10 times, and I think 6 of those games were on Universe Point. And so Reading and Deep Space have got quite a good rivalry between the two. Do you think that Reading and Deep Space will meet in a semi? And would you like to see that?
I think I would prefer that. Of course, you love the potential. I love when it's like one of us. There's going to be a GB team in the final. Now we fight tooth and nail to see who gets that opportunity. Yes, I think I prefer that than Deep Space getting knocked out by Tiefsee and not having a chance to play Reading. Because I don't think they lined up last year. Did they?
They did. They played
at
in the
Euros.
quarterfinal at
and
EUCF.
it was on.
That was the elimination.
And it was on Universe Point.
Yes. So 1 point away. Anything can happen in this mixed division, and we're here for it. Let's talk about risers and droppers. Who is going to ascend the most from where they finished last year, and who is going to drop from their heights? Drubsy?
So I am based in the UK, and I have seen or heard of some whisperings that Lemmings might not have the team that they had last year. And so, as much as I think that initially, I know Benji just said that Lemmings probably wouldn't necessarily finish that in that position again. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised to see it, based on the
Interesting.
kind of whisperings and rumours that are currently going around the UK scene of
Insiders.
who's trialing where and what's changing. And I don't know the
All their
reasons
women
for
are
that.
trying out for Bristol.
Maybe some of them. But I know that some are trialing for Reading, some are trialing for Chevy, some are trialing for Deep Space. So there's a kind of churn there, and how much of that is just grumbles of, oh, we didn't do very well at Euros, and I think maybe I need to change teams. But when it actually comes to it, they realise that they love each other and they don't want to disband. I don't
We
know.
love Leamington. I know what I did.
So I'm going to kind of like say they're not a rise or a faller because they stayed in 13th, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that again based on like what I'm hearing. I
Okay.
think love you, Pelt. I think Pelt did a really good job of one, getting to Euros, and two, coming ninth. I think when the heavens started opening and the rain and the wind came, it played into their favours massively. That is what they're really, really good at. And I think that played dividends for them being able to finish in that ninth position. But I wouldn't be surprised next year, if the weather is somewhat calmer, that they would not necessarily finish there. They've lost Emma Sexton as well, who was kind of a key O-line player for them and was able to cross over to the D-line.
Has
She's
lost Emma to...
well, I don't know where she's gone, but she's now living in Belgium. Unsure on whether there's Moon Cup potential or vice versa, but in Belgium now, in Brussels. So
Okay.
she's gone.
Okay. And of course, you have the inside stuff on Pelt as a windmill pelter last
I
year.
do. Double peak Pelt. Twice I've done it with them.
Okay, nice. When was the first?
It was in 2022.
Windmill as well?
Yes,
Okay.
hence the jumper.
All right.
Yes. They're a lovely bunch. And then for my kind of biggest riser, again, mixed is carnage. I'm not really too sure. I'm not super familiar with everyone in the division, so I wouldn't necessarily want to put anyone down as a big riser. But I'm a big advocate for Reading. I think that they're a really, really great team, a similar kind of professional outlet as Deep Space are. And one thing that Reading are doing fantastically compared to quite a lot of other UK teams is building a really, really good junior scene. Mark Bignell is a fantastic kind of advocate for young players getting in it and like nurturing them from the get-go, and they're already starting to see some of those young players come through. Reading do an elite invite in January every Friday, and I've been going along to those, and there's some really young promising players that have kind of come from nowhere, that Reading have kind of nurtured. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Reading going up simply because they're playing the long game. They've taken 2 years to kind of rebuild and restructure and rethink, because that team after their silver medal kind of did change. So I think that they're probably going to go up because they're doing it the proper way, which isn't just picking up superstars. They're growing and developing and kind of creating a camaraderie within their mixed squad.
I mean, even if
Homegrown
you look
talent.
at that Reading roster last year, there's a fair few who are, young, fresh players,
Yeah.
playing for GB at youth levels, and some of them have even made the step to playing for the full national side. Thinking about like Sam Wilson is a great example of that, who's come up through there. But yes, I expect them to get a good eye on young talent coming through. That makes a lot of sense to me.
So that's
Nice.
my guess. Pelt, unfortunately, going down. Reading
And
going
Reading
up.
going up. I mean, based on my prediction, I at least see Reading going up 5 spots or 6 spots. So I can't oppose your picks there. Benji, risers and droppers.
A couple of droppers for me. I think Pook flattered to deceive a little bit for me. They had a 7-3 regular season record, but whenever I actually saw them, I don't know, I kind of didn't see it. So, I mean, again, happy to be proven wrong in any such situation. Also, another faller, like Disconnection, they've kind of been slowly and steadily just not a precipitous fall, but like it feels like they get one place lower every year.
Mhm.
So it wouldn't surprise me to see Disconnection maybe next year is the year that they don't crack that top 8. In terms of a riser, that is an interesting one because the 16 that qualified for EUCF were, I think, pretty clearly the 16 that qualified. There wasn't anyone who was necessarily that close to a spot, in all honesty. So you're probably looking at rather than looking at someone from outside that group breaking in, I think you're probably looking at someone who's in that group kind of having a better year. Nulakt are a team that have been in the top 8 in the past. Didn't work out for them this year. We mentioned that there was the 3-way tie in that pool. They beat Tartu Turbulence. Yes, it was Turbulence without Tam, but it's still a very good side. I could certainly see them, getting their ducks in a row at EUCF and maybe leapfrogging Disconnection to be that second-ranked German side.
Very nice. The second
Steph?
the Disconnect. So wait, hang on. Second ranked German side would be Nulakt.
Yeah, behind Tief, of course.
Okay, I was just. I think that's who I was going to take for my riser as well. I mean, they played Elite Invite. They didn't fare so well, but they made EUCF top 8 the year prior. So this is already a drop from 2023 to go down from 8 to 14. I mean, I don't think they're full of stars. Schenk is over there, probably their top. Yeah, he is their top stat getter. Sebastian Schreiber gets the job done. There's a Meyer Bottling there, but it's Joanna, not Jonathan. And I didn't realize there was another Meyer Bottling out there playing. So that in itself, the family pedigree is something that I can buy into. So that is kind of who I was thinking. If not, I was, and again, maybe I got thrown off the scent by Derbs, giving us the inside scoop on Lemmings. I think I was like leaning Lemmings at the start of this conversation. Of course, Reading is a good shout, but I think New Life can do more than a five seed jump there. So I will agree with you, Benji. Droppers. Now, it's going to be harsh. I don't know the Polish community so well, name by name. When I read these names, I don't know too many of them. Maybe it's because I can't read them well enough to associate the scripture to the pronunciation. But it's a team that I didn't get to watch at all last year. I thought they played out of their skin to get their wins. But, I mean, they beat Puck on Universe Point. They destroyed Padova Rangers.
I mean,
I don't know.
Absolutely hammered them 15-4.
Yeah, I don't know what went on there, but that was their big game. Then they lost to Seski. Then they lost to Reading. They beat Disconnection on the last game of the weekend. Disconnection, I still rate as a quality team, but I feel like they are a team that just managed to win the right games, and we see that at every tournament. A team that's
there's a real art to that, Steph.
How did they do that? I mean, France women at EUC 2019 was like they won 3 games and got 5th or something. Or
hey, at Tom's last year, Bristol women won like 2 games and came 4th.
Yeah, so like I feel like they got a little bit of we played the draw well, we run our right games, and for that reason, I can see Savage on a slide and not being able to live up to that potential. So prove me wrong out there, Savagites.
I think for Savage, I'll take that again. I think for Savage, Elite Invite's going to be so instructive into their quality as a team. Does making that top 8 at ECF, does it draw more talent? Does it draw more talent in? Does it give the players that are already there a kick on? Maybe that full season of, putting themselves at that elite level. Maybe Elite Invite doesn't go so well because, it's a tough schedule playing against the top teams back to back to back to back. And, on the one hand, they might find, actually, you know what, we're not fazed by this at all. we feel like absolutely we belong here, and then they show that. But alternatively, if it's a tough week, it doesn't necessarily mean that that their season has to be written off, because again, the quality of a league invite is such that you can have a terrible weekend and you can still end up winning a UCF.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. I think with Elite Invite as well, I don't know if there were any teams, and I'm going through, that played Elite Invite and didn't make EUCF. No, they all made EUCF. Did Box Vienna? Yeah, they were at
Yep.
EUCF. So that is for me, and if they haven't worked it out yet, Savage, now's your time. This is recruiting power. You are the only Polish team that's got a practical guarantee to be going to EUCF in your home country. Yes, there's high likelihood that you're going to see troubles get it. A men's team, pretty low likelihood based on what's happening. I mean, there is a Division Two EUCF, but these teams, elite players want to be playing Div 1.
They're not training all season to go to E2CF. It's just not happening.
I love E2CF. R2
Thank you.
E2CF.
Must admit, I'm pretty happy with it.
Copyright that.
I mean, this is Savage's chance to pick up some quality players that are in nearby cities. Savage is where, Benji? I'm putting you on the spot because you know everything, but if you don't,
normally I do know
apologize.
everything, and I have to double. There's something in my head that says Poznan, but I don't back me on that.
Okay, I won't back you, but if there are players near where Savage comes from that are playing on teams that have less of a chance, this is the chance to say, okay, let's get that Rapazzo guy wrong out there. Let's pick up a little bit of extra pieces here, bolster the roster, and shut the mustache up. So it's theirs for the taking. Hey, and like you said, Derbs earlier. I think it was Derb, maybe Benji, but not all teams. No, it was Derbs talking about Reading and the homegrown talent. Maybe that's what they want to do, and that is their plan, and they want to stick with it. I, for one, don't mind a couple of add-ons to make that homegrown talent just feel a little bit more comfortable, get a little bit of a taste of how things are done otherwise, hear a couple different voices that come from different programs, and I really do think it ends up bolstering a program. So we'll see if they stick with that kind of advising.
I should never have doubted myself. They are from Poznan.
What city is Poznan nearest now to between Warsaw or Wrocław?
Now you are testing my Polish geography.
Yeah.
It's all right. Poland's not that big a country, right? I've flown into Poznan before because there wasn't a flight to Wrocław, and then I had to get the coach. That's a whole other story. So it's sort of in the west of the country. Wrocław's probably marginally closer, but it's a good few hours on the coach. I'll tell you that much.
Okay. Well, hopefully they got cars and they can just bang in and out for at least training camps, weekly trainer, one of the weekday trainings once or twice a month kind of thing. And that's enough.
And we know there is other talent in Poznan as well, because we've seen Uprising at EUCF before as well in the Open Division.
Yes. So there we go. Let's see if they can chuck all their eggs in one basket and make it a shiny, more polished basket and prevent the predicted drop. Let's talk about player awards, the Podies and the Bapodies and the Depodies and the Opodies. And hang on, before we get to all the Podies, here's a message to the newly appointed coach of Clapham. This is official now that Sean Colfer and is it Mark Artabello?
Chris Artabello.
Chris Artabello.
Nice to see your research is impeccable as always.
Thanks. I did have his name in front of me. I did have his name researched. It just wasn't in front of me. So, but the two of them will be the coaches. Sean Colfer does these wonderful player awards. I am questioning and proposing why there hasn't been, and there should be, a coaching award now. almost every team has a coach. There is no award for coach in not almost every team, but enough teams that we can pick out a top coach. So here is my call to add a coach of the year award for each division.
Is this so you can come back into coaching and win the award, Steph?
But I'm not good. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stay in the commentary box until there's something worthy of me getting not just a championship. I need personal recognition.
Yeah, true.
You know me, Benj, and you do. But player awards. The podium went to Mr. Tokai Super Team, Jakob Tam, a breakout player the year prior, all the way to the top. He's awesome. I think he does more for his team than anyone does for their team. His team got high enough that they were like, okay, he's pulling that many yards, and they're medaling. Was a tough decision. I'd say the toughest. They were all tough. It was a very difficult decision. There were a lot of players in the conversation. Torben Honschmeyer, the runner-up there, very deserved. Could well have walked away with it too. Either of these players able to repeat? The likelihood is that they will both be in the division again. Derbs, your thoughts first, and then you can go on about any awards as we did in the other divisions.
I think Jakob is a clear standout player in that mixed division. Almost got celebrity status within it. I think it would be hard simply by how much he does for Tartu to kind of push him off. We mentioned in the previous recording that the players that kind of get to be shown off the most by their team and are given the license to be the superstar are often the players that you see taking the awards. And I don't see that Tartu are going to change that. There are probably players that come close, but I don't think that anyone quite does what Jakob does for Tartu in the mixed division. One thing I would like to say, and maybe it's me being slightly disgruntled, is I know that mixed is about kind of equity, but I think it would be good to see the mixed awards being separated into FMP and MMP, because it feels slightly difficult that the European Player of the Year and runner-up are both men. And I did just look at the stats sheet, and the top 10 statters in the mixed division, bar one, are all male matching players. And I think that that is not necessarily representative of what the mixed division is trying to do. And so that's my thought, which is it's really, really easy to advocate for good mixed. It's really, really easy to make sure that you are doing the right structures and strategies to make sure you're allowing your FMPs to shine. But as a FMP in mixed, it is really difficult to stand out against very athletic men. And so I don't think there will be any harm in splitting that up into two separate awards.
Yeah,
that's my piece.
I don't know about two separate awards, but maybe not let the stats dictate. I think I will always preach that FMPs win mixed game.
Yeah, 100%.
The strength of your FMPs win it, even though the stat sheet may be a bit more full with some male statistics, MMP stats. It is almost always the strength of your FMPs that wins the more crucial matchups throughout the game. I feel like there's a little bit more neutralizing between top level MMPs, and if the team that has a bit more depth in the FMPs will win those battles more noticeably, even if those are like hard yards in the middle. That has got to be taken into account into the awards if they don't split it. But I wouldn't be opposed to that either, Derbs.
Yeah, 100%. And then when it comes to other awards, looking down, I really wouldn't be surprised to see a player like Layla Deniston get a shout out in potentially the Offensive Player of the Year. Layla was recovering from a fairly significant concussion all of this season, and kind of came back from a pretty troubled time and to play at Euros, and ended up being a massive contributor even without necessarily being able to click with the team in the year. So that was kind of really, really cool to see. And Layla does a lot for both the organization of the team and also just kind of a real rallying force for the players. Just scrolling down, if Kate stays, in mixed, which there is some discussion that Kate might not be. Again, it's the rumor mill. I have no idea what her decision will be, but if Kate stays in the mixed division, I don't necessarily see that there is anyone who is applying quite as much defensive pressure as Kate. I know that when Kate used to play for Spice, she was one of the people that if you are on a line and you could see her standing opposite you, it made me go like, oh God, because her work rate is incredible. But then also, like we mentioned Alana earlier, Alana is a fantastic defender. Maybe doesn't get as many blocks as Kate, but Alana is an absolute nuisance to be marked by, a fantastic kind of shutdown defender. And so, again, it would be great to see someone like that get recognition. When it comes to breakout players, I am going to segue ever so slightly, and it comes with a caveat that Sam Hill is not going to play mixed. However, when we were doing the open
playing Clapham.
Unsure, but I think potentially playing with an open team. When we did the breakout player of the year, we completely forgot to mention Sam Hill. And I just want to say that if Sam does play club this year, it will be his first Euros and he has to win it. And it's non-negotiable. Whatever division he plays in, Sam will be the breakout player.
Annoyingly, I was just looking through the little Google Doc we had last year about awards and stuff like that, and I was thinking, I could see Sam Hill on this next year. So
yeah,
he was pretty awesome on the beach. I mean, he was pretty awesome at the last junior tournament I saw him. He was great at the beach for the Mighty Hucks.
Yeah.
I mean, every time I see him, it feels like he's grown 3 years of ultimate experience.
Yeah.
It feels like he's grown 3 inches every time I've seen him as well.
Yes, that too. He's not staying youth height. That's for damn sure.
And then, so when it comes to breakout, again, we mentioned in the previous podcast, it's really difficult to say like, oh, this person's a breakout player because we don't know who they are yet. Then they're meant to have not played Euros before. So we can say that there is U24s happening this year. I observed the U24 mixed trials, and there was a lot of really, really promising youngsters there that are spanning all across the UK. I don't necessarily think any of them would necessarily be pushing their way into being a breakout player, but I wouldn't be surprised that mixed is probably a more accessible route to elite ultimate in Europe. And so I think that the mixed division where we were seeing a lot of U24 players that are incredibly impressive. And so if both breakout players are U24, I wouldn't be surprised.
Speaking of U24, France has just announced that they are putting in teams to under 24
Gail
in all
on
3
Solana's
divisions.
No, who's the coach?
Mixed is Nas, Alex Benedict, Paul Arters.
Yes.
And,
what?
There's
big
one
fan of
other,
French Ultimate.
Yeah.
Are they doing 1 team, 2 team, 3 teams? All 3?
I believe all 3. I believe, but I've only seen actually, I think I'm making this up. I've only seen in mixed, but I had this notion.
I mean, they should
just
do mixed.
Or heard somewhere that the others, but I have only seen with mine own eyes that they're doing mixed. So.
It was on Instagram, wasn't it? I saw that. Yeah. I mean, if they do mixed,
that makes no sense.
That will be an absolute fantastic thing to watch. I'll fly out.
So the French, I mean, I would love to just see more French team. The good thing about French Ultimate is there are so many teams now. The bad thing is it distributes their talent across it. So when they go into Europe, they have a tougher time breaking into European championships and like really competing and having a chance to get into the big tournaments. So I think, though, with time, it's going to play out well for them to build more communities, more talent, and a few of these teams are going to break into, like, we got to see Frisbee be putting in a mixed team soon and being able to compete. We got to see teams like Monchaux being able to do it more consistently. And there are just too many good French teams out there for them not to be regularly punching at UCF.
Well, so for context for those watching at home, I deleted my notes today, and so I'm coming into this blind. But one of the notes that I do remember, which is in Europe, we now see a lot of people not necessarily sticking to the borders of their country. You know, Bristol Women, we have a Swedish player. Jinx have players from Austria and Poland, and it's you know, it's a free for all. To me, I'm surprised that there hasn't been a push in France to put together like a really, really strong competitive France like super team, because you're not spanning countries. You're not having to get on a flight. You're within the same country, and I'm just surprised that that's not happened.
It's the French, they like to keep it central. This fight I had to get Joe and Tim on Isno, and then the thought of anyone else, like, I won't even get into it, but I mentioned last time, and I can confirm that Chak have said to Elliot Bonet that if he is not a regular training tournament player, he will not be able to play EUCF with them if they go. And I think that is crazy. I hope Nasser recruits him and he goes and plays Bologna, and they now beat back Chak just because of that.
That is crazy.
But it like blows my mind.
I think one of the reasons why maybe we haven't seen a French super team is that where would the obvious meeting point be?
Paris.
And hey, as much as English people traditionally hate the French, that's nothing compared to how much the French hate Parisians.
You're onto something there, Benji. You are there. Definitely not going to go to the French Big Smoke, or Paname as the rest of the French call Paris, to go give them a leg up on the rest of them. That's for damn sure.
Like, Paris gets enough as it is.
Yeah, they got the Olympics, god damn it.
I mean, to an extent, right, I admire the fact that they're like, no, we're going to do things our own way. We want to make sure that we have players who can commit 100%. We don't want to get too many transplants in. Like, there's a methodology to it, and given a lot of what they've done, it makes sense. But yeah, you do feel that at some point it's like, could there be more?
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, it's tough to knock France right now, the team that's the only nation to have knocked off the USA in any world championship in the last 3 years. They've done it twice. Okay, not the open age division, but did it in juniors, did it on the beach at open age. So yes, open age, but not on grass. That, like, they're getting things done right. They are doing things are working over in France, as far as their progression, and I can still knock them because they're just so unorthodox sometimes, and they do it their way.
But the thing is, right, we knock them because it's fun. It's just fun to knock them, right? I think.
I think you hit the head on the nail there, or the nail on the head there, Benji. With that, it is just fun to knock.
And to be fair, like, if it was not France, for example, if it was a different country that was getting results, but you feel like they're not doing things the way we'd want them to, I think they probably also get a bit of stick, right? I don't think it's just the fact that they're French.
Right. Now, where were we on the Player of the Year awards? Is this Benji's turn, or is
it's Benji's turn?
turn?
I had finished with my spiel.
Okay. So with me picking Tief to be champions, Torben Hernschmeyer's got to be very near the top of the awards contention. Rachel Naden made the move to Deep Space last season, and although she kind of wasn't around for the whole year, she can do pretty much everything. So I fully expect, if she's able to come to, tournaments throughout the course of the season, she gets integrated a little bit more. She'd have another year of systems under the belt, assuming she stays there. Again, would not be surprised to see her at the top of those awards. Into the point about whether we split the awards, I think it's tricky because, I mean, there's partly us as judges, quote unquote, but also kind of the way we view things is that a lot of mixed teams, they don't necessarily have female matching players in starring roles. And that sometimes, when you look for awards, obviously it's so much easier to see those players who do the eye-catching things, those who get a lot of touches. And there are not so many teams that really funnel their play through their women in the same way. One team that does do that quite a lot is Tartu Turbulence, and that's why I think Helen Terrell was such a standout, because you're just so used to seeing her getting it a lot, because why wouldn't you, to be honest? Especially when other teams do not feature women in that way, it makes her such a clear point of difference, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of some of the other awards, again, this is partly, I'm not going to call it bias, but the fact that because of where we are, because of who you kind of see various bits and bobs. One player I was impressed with for GB Under-20 last year is Reading's Marcus Kelsey-Stolen. He, every time they kind of asked questions of him, he looked like he was not overawed by the moment at all. He's quite a lean, tall figure, but I feel like another year as an athlete as well, he'll probably grow into that frame a little bit more, and he'll learn how to properly use that aerial ability. So I could certainly see him being a breakout candidate, offensive player of the year. If Konstantin Angeta continues improving and if Mosquitoes continue to give him the rock as much as they do, he will collect stats of that much. I can certainly assure you. I also expect Linnea Sabats to have another strong season for Tief, to be honest. I'd be very surprised if she did not. Although, which players go to the World Games and which don't, obviously will have a potential knock-on effect on things. And Linnea Sabert could be one of those who represents Germany out in Chengdu.
We'll certainly be keeping our eyes peeled on that. There will be an episode later in the year that will touch on the World Games. But great insights there, Benji. If I'm looking at the mixed division for players of the year, if I think Reading is going to do as well as I think they are, I think the heartbeat of Reading is one of my favorite players and just a wonderful human is Andy Lewis. And I think Andy Lewis was at the top of his game, was what Groot had to shut down last time. They just eked out their victory over Groot when that was back in Caorle. I think when Reading they went to the final one other time, but I think Andy Lewis he's getting older as nobody gets younger. I don't think he's past his prime. He is a fit dude. He's got a full range of game. I think he plays mixed as well as any dominant male player. I think I could see Andy Lewis jumping back into the MVP, the Pody seat. I like the Linnea Siebert. I mean, going over to Tief Tauha, it's Siebert or two of the big guns if Pavan comes back or Hornschmeier. Otherwise, I'm not sure. Saskia Bake is very, very good, does a lot on the offensive side, is a little bit of a conservative distributor, though, which will probably limit her looks for big MVP Pody awards. I like looking at Mosquitoes, too, and as much as I love the Angetas, I am a huge, huge fan of Alexander Spalholz. I think he is one of the best receivers in the game. He was not playing at 100% last year. He skipped out on lots of games, played half games. I think if you get a Spalholz at 100%, he is one who could not only lift Mosquitoes to a higher ranking, but definitely get enough attention to get some votes. I'm not going to look past Jakob Tam, though. I think he is going to remain the best. I love that guy's game. He is a powerful player, but he seems, again, like to be, super powerful and play in the mixed division. It's kind of like a sore thumb, though, but he does it with elegance, playing with Tara as his next best player, maybe equally best player by many opinions. Like, knowing that he's got, his equal as an FMP and the two of them kind of at the top together, they really end up using, okay, yes, we are going to be the center of our team's attack. Yes, we are going to be the crossovers when we're needed for D, but integrated in each point, they're not just isolating one another, looking for one another. They are playing a system and just being strong parts of it. So either one of those two I could see back at the top of the heap. Defensively, love the Alana Archer call. I think who I'd love to see is Maëlle Berentin, who played for Seski. She plays a lot more, or she plays a bit of both, as the French do. They'll go back and forth, and best players. I think defensively, and again, she's getting a little bit older too. She's been around for a while. She lays out as well as anyone I've ever seen. I've seen her hit a gym floor harder than any human I've ever seen hit a gym floor and bounce back up and just keep going. She's one I'd love to see. Talking about breakout players of the year is always, as we say, a little tougher. The one on Tief that's part of the family of Frisbeers is Sada Hermaking. And tough to call her breakout because, I mean, she dominated in the youth division, but we're talking about breaking out in the open age category. And I don't think she's quite done that yet, but I think she is reeks with potential to be able to do it. And again, now you look a little bit lower down, and the Italians, the Cus Padova is another team that's top heavy on their roster. And Alessandra Pivetta, a junior who won with the Italian women, or silvered with the Italian women in Padova in the under 20s, under 17s, under 20s at that time is what it was. Is somebody who is a natural in finding goals in the end zone. And it was Chiara Varotto played a junior as well, who played for the national team last year in Australia. But the one that would be ironic, because he is practically a master, maybe even a master, but would still be a breakout, the second best ambidextrous player and maybe the best after Crash.
I was going to say, I hope you give this guy a mention, because I don't think he qualifies for breakout anymore. But
I know,
love watching Alberto Girotto.
Alberto Girotto.
I love watching Alberto
he's
Girotto.
He's just not on enough radars. He's that good, but I mean, why? I would love to see him get that burn. I think he does qualify. Oh, I don't know. What are the actual specifications for?
There are vibes.
Yeah, vibes. Well,
Yeah.
I'm giving him vibes that if he does it again and can kind of like get his team up into quarters or better, that a similar kind of performance, 19-point performance or better, and propelling his team to greater heights would make him worthy of a breakout player.
I really like your shout there of Alessandra Pivetta, because earlier Dervs mentioned that of the 10 leading stat scorers at EUCF, only one of them was female matching. That was Alessandra Pivetta. 9 assists and 16 goals from 6 games. It's, pretty tidy.
That's great. Yeah.
Not pretend it's not.
Yeah, hang on. Helen Terra is in that conversation too.
Okay, maybe I was looking at the wrong stats.
No. Scoreboard leaders, because they go. Some people. No, everybody played 6 games.
Yeah, so I think that not all the fields had accurate stat tracking and information. So
okay, maybe I've gone into a rage about something that's not factually correct.
The thing is, it might not be factually correct, but unfortunately it passes the sniff test, because if you look at the top 20 stat getters, after there's own. Okay, so
you are right in the top 10.
Was the only in the top 8.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, Helen Terra is the only other one in the top 20, and again, not every team has full information, right? But
absolutely right.
It's not great.
You. But yeah, Alessandra Pivetta, again, she's 8th on the overall stats, and I would say a lot of people, aren't familiar with that name. She's only ever shone in youth. Cus Padova finished, lower than average and didn't get streamed much. She's certainly flown under the radar, but when you look at the stats sheets, they tell a great story. And not only does that say she's good, I've seen her play in other avenues, and she's an awesome player and certainly one to watch, and one that we can dog ear for a breakout player of the year. I think, guys, that is going to do it. We are 3 shows in. We've got lined up all our ducks. Any last words on the 2025 mixed division? Derbs, anything swirling around up there?
No, but I just want to say I'm looking forward to seeing more female matching players be advocated for and put into bigger roles because they deserve it.
All right, let's do what Derb says. Benji?
As always, I look forward to mixed being an absolute clusterfuck and being entirely wrong on all fronts, and I am entirely here for it.
And with that, we will wrap up our 2025 prediction shows. This one, of course, being the mix. Thank you very much for joining us. For Benji Reese and Amelia Durbin, I've been Stefan Rapazzo. Thanks once again. We'll catch you next time.